Throughout Hibike Euphonium's first episode, Kumiko is depicted as sort of an uninvolved and passive observer, like she's detached from the world in front of her. In the first scene when she wins the dud gold, she makes a very, that's neat response, especially compared to Reina's seething frustration at them not getting actual gold. There's not really any investment from Kumiko because it feels like she's made the decision to put things at an arm's length. It results in her not feeling the hurt of being invested in something, but neither could she feel the joys of it either. When Kumiko gets to high school, she only really makes friends with Hazuki and Midori because Hazuki is like, oh yes, I have adopted this little girl, she's my best friend now, here's a little... Hazuki refers to her with her given name with no honorifics, which Kumiko seems irked by, but she doesn't push back on. Hazuki even makes Kumiko's introduction to Midori for her, and then she kind of just goes along to the Wind Ensemble Club. She is faced multiple times with the decision to join the club, but sort of seems indifferent to it. When she talks to Shuichi, she's just kind of like, nah. But then she gets home and looks over a script for Orpheus in the Underworld, which she played in middle school, making her remember that excited feeling she got when she finished the song, but still seems at an impasse with her decision. The next day is followed with a short montage of cuts of her throughout the day in her seat at school, with her barely moving from her spot from one cut to the next, conveying how she's continuing to drift, like she's still pondering her decision to join the club or not. But then she teaches Hazuki how to use a wind instrument, and she thinks of the moment she first learned how to do the same from her sister. It's in this moment we see a genuine smile when she reflects on her history with the UFO. It's an understated moment, but I think it's a tremendously important one as it keys us in on what exactly is important to Kumiko. Because it is only after this moment, when she's asked if she'll join the club, that she says, sure. It's from this moment that Hibike Euphonium establishes a connection between playing an instrument and connection between people. I mean, like, you literally can't play in a wind ensemble without being on the same page with your bandmates, and having a mutual hobby is a natural way to increase relations with other people, but Hibike does that, but it also links relationships in music, and one that's a bit more abstract than that. At this point, it's established that Kumiko is a drifter, but can make a decision when it comes to an important sentimental connection to someone, albeit subconsciously. The way she can absentmindedly blurt out what she's thinking is indicative of her drifter-like state and just a overall endearing personality trait to get us more engaged with our floofy little protagonist. When the ensemble takes a vote for whether to participate in nationals or not, Kumiko once again doesn't make a choice either way due to her being scared of big bad lean mean Reina. Another personality trait that becomes obvious is her sometimes cynical attitude, like her just thinking they wouldn't win gold back in middle school, or when they're discussing why Taki was nice to the bass section. Kumiko remarks that maybe he gave up on them completely, to which Shuichi replies, Kumiko's pretty cynical, right? Her cynicism and detachment towards daily life kind of go hand in hand, thinking the worst could happen if she gets involved. It's all too fitting that music represents a big part of connection in Hibike, considering music is a way to express emotion, which Hibike uses extremely well, integrating into this theme of connection. When Aoi quit the band, Kumiko was told off by Taki-sensei due to her dragging, which has never happened to her up to this point. So it's clear that this is supposed to be representative of her feeling a little boo-boo sad due to Aoi quitting. Hashimoto Sensei in season 2 even says that the ensemble is playing like a personality. It's calm and reserved, but needs to be more energetic. When Kumiko hears Reina playing alone after practice was cancelled, she feels the emotion put into it and feels inspired to do more, which in turn inspires her to make a proactive decision in telling Reina that she felt inspired by her performance, which then leads to her being more proactive to lazy-ass Natsuki-senpai by asking her to all practice together in the same episode, slowly showing how Reina's expression through music is creating some sort of attraction from Kumiko to Reina, and resulting in it slowly breaking Kumiko out of her state of listlessness. Kumiko and Reina's relationship is integral to the central narrative of Hibike, them having a strong relationship that Kumiko is so drawn into. She spends more and more time improving with the euphonium, being a major force of Kumiko's gradual character changes. So it's no surprise that they're depicted with the red string of fate in the ED. There's a couple times early in the series where Kumiko is described as distant, which is no surprise given what we see of her. She tries to be nice, but often has a habit of letting out her true thoughts, which can be very snarky. But these thoughts are precisely why Reina becomes attracted to her, because I think we can all vouch for her. There's something about bluntness that's refreshing. In an all-inspiring sequence in episode 8, Reina is able to relay her feelings about various things towards Kumiko, while Kumiko listens and is able to make her patent snarks and unfiltered remarks. It's a sequence where these two kind of just open up to each other. A sequence where two people are able to be genuine to each other and close the gap, which is capped off and fully expressed through a musical sequence. They play a beautiful tune together, and the sound design and visuals make this one of Hibike's most stunning moments. And then the flashes of the bandmates all having fun together and Midori comforting Hazuki during this sequence all build the subtext of this moment being about music and connections being intertwined with one another. At this point, it's pretty firm that Kumiko relates some of her biggest connections with music, from her sister to now Reina. She gets inspired from Reina's playing and becomes even more determined after Reina's declaration that she will become special on the mountaintop, then becomes even more determined after witnessing Reina at the audition. For some reason, Kumiko is hellbent on becoming better and better because Reina's playing strikes a chord with her. When Kumiko is practicing outside, she tells Reina that she wants to become special like her, and there's a shot that frames Kumiko trapped in between pieces of grass in the scene, closed off from Reina. This shot suggests that Kumiko feels closed off from Reina somewhat, almost like she can't be on her level unless she is also as special as Reina. This separation in the shot even implies that maybe she feels like she can't fully connect with Reina unless she becomes special just like Reina is. It results in a feverish desire that leads to her not noticing her dehydration, and she starts bleeding out of her nose like she just ate a Popeye's biscuit. This takes a turn for the worse when Taki-sensei removes her from practice since she can't get a specific part right, hitting a huge blow to her newfound passion to improve. In this same episode, Kumiko is confronted with the reality of her sister Mamiko and Aoi, who gave up the Winds Ensemble simply just because there was no reason for them to progress. In one of the best scenes in the show, Kumiko hits a wall and breaks down emotionally for the first time in the series out of frustration. A huge checkpoint in her character development as she is finally able to understand why Reina felt the way she did when they didn't make nationals. The feeling of not being able to continue your passion. After her bridge breakdown, she confronts her sister saying, yeah, there is a point to her playing the euphonium, simply because she just likes doing it. Not by obtaining a sense of self-worth by getting better, but just doing it and improving because she likes it. Because that's what matters at the end of the day. And this realization clearly lifts a weight from Kumiko's shoulder. When Kumiko asks Taki if he feels pressure being in the same position as his father's job, he says he didn't really think about it because he simply just likes doing the job. To which Kumiko further aligns herself with her epiphany that if you like what you're doing, that's all that matters. And then for the first time that day, she is able to confront Reina and act like her usual goofy self around her. And then she finally gets Ufo-kun. Bye-bye! When in the next episode, they are finally able to make regionals. Season 1 is able to bookend from what was established in the first scene. From a detached Kumiko feeling content with their quote-unquote failure by herself, to her over the moon with their best friends celebrating them making nationals. In the Season 2 premiere, there's a moment where Kumiko feels proud of her friends, and is also able to let herself down around Reina more, teasing her more and more comfortably, while Reina also just starts hanging around Kumiko and her friends more, showing how both have come far. They also hold hands and shit like, you know, besties do.
Just the two of us, we can make it if we try.
Season 2 further delves into this theme of relationships being tied strongly to music by exploring the reasons why people keep on playing their instrument, which starts by going into the Mizore Nozomi storyline. At this point, it's clear that Kumiko connects playing her instrument and connection to others together. So Nozomi being left out of rejoining the club by Asuka really gets to her and makes her more proactive in the storyline. This storyline is the first time the series is pretty blatant and upfront about this theme of playing for somebody else, where Mizure straight up says that the only reason she kept playing the oboe was to feel connected to Nozomi. But unfortunately, due to her insecurities of her relationship with Nozomi, she doesn't put the same emotion she once did into her playing, expressing her love for her, since everyone says her playing is lifeless, while Nozomi says her playing was bursting with emotion. The story arc and subsequently Liz and the Bluebird shows both the positives and negatives of having a hobby tied to a love for another person. It can result in beautiful playing, unlike anything, or unfortunately holding back someone and crushing them slowly. It also shows how detrimental not communicating properly and not expressing yourself properly can be. This is also a common concept in Season 2, where characters can't quite express themselves to one another well, which is a relatable thing, especially for a cast of high schoolers. When Mizure says that she plays the oboe for Nozomi, Kumiko is shocked by it, which is ironic considering how she herself is motivated to play by the people she cares about most, which lets us in that she's kinda unaware of this, or just suppressing it. Reina is shown to be strong-willed and independent through the way she plays her trumpet, and further reinforced by her telling Kumiko that if she plays for anybody, she plays for herself. But as independent as Reina is, a big part of her character arc is opening up to others and making connections between Kumiko, her friends, and her fellow sectional band members, despite very much getting off on the wrong foot. So when they see Mizure say she's going to play for Nozomi, and Reina then gets the idea to play her solo for Kumiko, the sentiment in itself means quite a lot, but then you see the actual solo itself, and you can tell it's different. I admittedly don't have much of an ear for the nuance of orchestral music, but even this is obvious how much her feelings towards Kumiko enhances her performance, and is able to reach Kumiko as the latter thinks back on her already powerful memories of her recent best friend. Man, I love the show. I think it's telling how during the Kansai competition flashes to some of the characters' music sheets, you can see pictures of their friends and fellow bandmates or teachers, tying together music and connections. And I want to take this time to talk about a character in this series I deeply love and think is important to Hibike's narrative. Taki-sensei is a character who also strongly attributes love and connection to other people through wind ensemble. Taki is a hard ass, but he is also just exceedingly genuine. He always says what he feels and isn't afraid to tell the band if they're fucking up royally. This results in him rubbing off on the band members the wrong way initially, but really he's just incredibly earnest and never really deceptive. Well, except for when he sets up the re-audition just so everyone can witness how much better Reina is at the solo so everybody can shut up about it. We all have our moments. Taki seems to be genuinely invested in his wind ensemble, such as one particular moment that sticks out to me is after Aoi quits, there's a quick shot of him looking upset at her form to request to leave. It's a small moment that gives layers to a character without using a single word of dialogue. When Asuka's mom tries to force her to quit the band, Taki refuses, takes any resignation from her, and is usually sincere but blunt self, knowing that Asuka herself doesn't want to resign. We find out later that he becomes the advisor of the wind ensemble because what his late wife wanted to do but couldn't due to her passing. He does this as a way to stay connected to the person he loves the most, which, as you know, doesn't sound too far off from characters like Kumiko, Mizure, and Asuka. But this decision has led to him building a healthy lifestyle. After wallowing in grief, being able to teach and get genuinely invested in his students' progress. Small little moments where he's seen earnestly joining in on their team chant means so much more because of this. At the end, when the other teacher says that even though they reset at the end of the year, that there is something valuable in that, as it's a clean slate, to which Taki agrees, and I can't help but think he's also referring to himself a little bit. Throughout the series, Asuka is shown to be an enigmatic figure, someone that Kumiko just can't really figure out or get a clue on, but gets the feeling there's more to her. When Kumiko accidentally overhears her playing her father's piece at camp one morning, she remarks how warm and lonely it feels. And this is possibly our first taste of who Asuka really is, which is expressed through music. She's lonely due to the facades and barriers she puts up, but is ultimately a warm figure. Asuka plays Euphonium as a way to connect to her father. She was never able to know, making her, another example of this theme I've repeated throughout the video. The storyline with Asuka allows us to not only explore Asuka, but through her paralleling Kumiko's sister Mamiko, we are able to explore Kumiko more, and ultimately have her be able to confront certain things about herself and her relationship to her sister. A big part of playing music is self-expression, so when Asuka and Mamiko being essentially forced to quit music by their parents is quite literally taking away their self-expression. It's sad seeing these people be separated from something that not only do they clearly love, but sad to see them ripped away from something that represents such strong connections and bonds. Kumiko is clearly frustrated at Mamiko having quit band regardless of the reason, because of how much she conflates playing music and connections together. When her sister gives up wind ensemble, I think she felt like she lost that connection to her sister in a way, and is why she yells at her sister for giving up, which is then reflected in Kumiko's feelings toward Asuka. There's a powerful scene that's purely unspoken and just performed through Asuka performing the piece her father gave her. In the scene, we are given a very ambient and wistful presentation as we cut between shots of the river around them at dusk and Kumiko getting swept up by Asuka's performance. It's a scene where you can feel every emotion intended, and it's delivered solely through audiovisual presentation without a word said. This scene is the embodiment of the abstract emotions Hibike forms in me. It's tough to explain the scene, but there's also a deep understanding and impact it leaves. It captures those moments where the ambience is just right and allows us to get swept up and just feel the presence of someone and come to understand them more. Throughout Hibike, we see Kumiko have a problem with exactly voicing how she feels, being very non-confrontational and saying, and saying what she feels with accidental outbursts instead. Having, a very passive way of tackling conflict. When Aoi quits and Kumiko tries to comfort Haruka about her feelings about being president, she just can't really get through to her because she's sort of just saying platitudes or, surface level things. Once again, in the climax of the Nozomi Mizore conflict, she kind of just idly observes its resolution despite being way more involved and proactive in that conflict than she had any right to be. This problem of not being confrontational and upfront rears its head as Kumiko tries to talk Asuka back into club, once again using non-personal bromides like, "Oh, everyone wants you back," which doesn't convince Asuka in the slightest. But it's only when she lets everything out and just says what she really feels that she is able to reach Asuka. When Kumiko is finally able to confront Asuka and outpour all of her emotions, she basically tells Asuka all that her sister felt and regretted and is able to get through to her in a way she wasn't able to with her sister. Kumiko is essentially able to realize her connection between music and the ones she cherishes by reflecting on her sister in the train scene, where she breaks down crying saying how she will miss her, but I think in a way she has already missed her sister. Those moments where they bond over instruments that she hasn't had in a long time. Kumiko's earnesty really clicks with Asuka in a way, and this moment really just sticks out to me because through all the expression through music and subtext, sometimes just being able to express words, how you feel, and just be genuine is still very important. Thanks to Shuichi, Mamiko is also able to remember how close she used to be with Kumiko while she was helping her get into music. Because of this, she was able to reconcile with Kumiko a bit and go see her performance. And then, at the same time, Asuka's father relays a message to her to congratulate her. And Kumiko is then able to express how she loves the UFO to her sister because of her. Finally, being able to express something we've known since episode 1 is where Hibike's thesis is at and where its emotional highs are at. The tenderness of Asuka's hug towards Kumiko, her way of non-verbally expressing her gratitude towards Kumiko for helping her connect to her father in some small way, and then the pure emotion of how happy Kumiko is to hear her sister express her love towards her. Beautiful moments like this that tie together how important these connections are to them, and how it's all possible through this little tiny hobby. Then, throughout the final episode of Hibike Euphonium Season 2, Kumiko seems a little downtrodden as the seniors approach their graduation. Well, she's mostly upset about Asuka going. Now Kumiko has already sort of had to part ways in a way with her sister, so Asuka, who has become sort of a figurative sister, leaving her hits her hard. The final scene of Hibike Euphonium 2 feels like it's Kumiko confronting and accepting the ethereal nature of these moments you have with people. Just like how Kumiko can't practice with her sister anymore, she won't be able to practice with or listen to Asuka anymore. When Asuka gives her her notebook as a way of saying, "Hey, we're still connected in a way." The famous "I won't forget how warm it sounded" line is Kumiko accepting how these moments have gone, but the memories and music she plays will still keep her connected to Asuka no matter what. These same feelings that the Kumiko we see in episode 1 was detached from in order to not feel any sort of hurt, Kumiko fully accepts. And of course, the "I won't forget how warm it sounded" line is meta to the series itself, because I love this show for how warm it feels. All of its fun, endearing characters and their interactions, with the show's strong emotional core, combined with the interesting way it integrates its themes into the concept of this show, all captivate me. And here is where I think Hibike makes its statement. Humans are social animals. We tend to latch onto those moments of warmth, connecting with another person. can give us, and those moments can be expressed as sound, as music, and etch itself into the soul of a person. But these moments and connections can be fleeting. They can be here one moment and gone the next. But those moments can remain with us through various means. We just have to remember how warm those moments were.